Hello there. This is State Representative Bill Zedler, and we're bringing the Zedler Report to you today on WBTM TV. We want to come live with you and to work with you to take back Texas, to make sure that Texas stays conservative. And what that means is making sure that you understand the way the state government operates and to see how what you can do to really get engaged so that you can have a positive impact, making sure that we move conservative principles forwards. You know, the state of Texas is doing relatively well compared to the rest of the nation. But here's the thing. We can do better, and we must do better. Back in back in 2003, when we were getting through the recession, it was the 78th legislative session. Texas was one of two states that did not raise taxes during that recession. And as the end result of that, Texas was one of the first states to come blowing out of the recession. And the fact of the matter is, since that time, we've created more jobs than all the other states put together. And how did we do that? By implementing conservative principles. But again, my friends, we can do better, because today, many of the other states, they have learned from Texas, and as an end result, they have learned what works and what does not. They have seen that the reason why Texas did so well is because we were one of the few states that during the recession did not raise taxes. Texas cut spending. At that time, we cut $10 billion out of the budget, and we want to make sure that we continue that philosophy. But again, we can do better. So what I wanted to talk to you today was first of all, how do you get involved? A lot of people think, well, okay, how do I voice my opinion? How do I really change the way the state is operating? Well, first and foremost, what I wanted to talk to you was you need to go to your precinct convention. Obviously, I'm a Republican. The reason I'm a Republican is because when you look at the Republican Party platform, and each and every one of you can get on the Texas GOP website and you can pull down the Republican Party platform of Texas. But you might say, well, how do you change the platform? And how do we control who goes further up the line, who goes to the senatorial convention, who goes to the state convention, and finally, who goes to the national convention? Well, first and foremost, just like I say, it starts out at the precinct level. That is the most basic unit of a political unit. And your precinct convention is held once every 2 years, the night of the primary election. In other words, the primary election this time will be on March 4th, and the polls will close at 7 o'clock. And somewhere around 7, a little after 7, 7:15, 7:30, they will have your precinct convention for your precinct. And it is where your election was held that day. You go back to that same place, and you say, well, how do I know where that is? I know where early voting is, but how do I know where my precinct vote is? Well, you can look in the paper, or you can look online, and you can find out where your precinct election will be going on and where your precinct convention will be held. And so you'll go there that night, and everybody from your precinct who wants to attend can go there. And what you do is then you elect officers, and then you come up with any things that you would like to have added to the platform at the senatorial level. You present that, and you take it in triplicate, and you take your plank, and you take it and you put it in the up for a vote, and you vote on it, and then you select delegates that will go to the next higher convention. And guess what you want to do? You want to select delegates that first and foremost represent your viewpoint.
Bill, let me interrupt you here for just a second. This is Joshua Samuel, the producer of the show. Can you tell us exactly, because I'm kind of lost here.
Okay.
How large is a precinct?
Well, yeah, the precinct will vary in size. You'll see some precincts that have just a handful of people in it. But you'll find others that will have, 12, 1,400, 1,500 people in there. But here's the thing. The people who show up at the precinct convention, they're the ones that represent everybody in their particular precinct. And I want to tell you, friends, I've been going to precinct conventions since 1976, when Ronald Reagan was first running for the U.S. president, or he was actually running for the Republican nominee for the Republican Party. And I went to my first precinct convention because I was talking to a friend of mine who was a conservative, and he said, Bill, if you want to help Ronald Reagan, you need to go to your precinct convention. And so I went to the precinct convention that night. And what it boiled down to is, it just so happened, probably at that time, there were probably about a dozen of us there. And it just so happened the number who were supporting Ronald Reagan outnumbered the people who were not, who were supporting Gerald Ford. And so as an end result of that, guess what? All the people who were supporting Ronald Reagan, we got to go to the next higher convention, which was the senatorial convention. And then what happens is the people at the senatorial convention, they do exactly what was going on at the precinct convention, except in greater numbers. And so at the senatorial convention, you'll probably have somewhere around 1,000, 1,500 people there. And you do exactly the same thing. You, first of all, vote on, they'll have a platform committee. The platform committee takes all the planks that came to them from the various precincts, and they put them together. And at the end, towards the end of the senatorial district convention, they vote on those things that are in the temporary platform. It is not until it is voted on by everybody at the senatorial district level that it becomes a permanent platform for that Senate district. And so the next thing they do is they'll have a nominations committee. And that nominations committee will come up with delegates that will be sent to the state convention. That list of people who will be sent forward must be approved by the entire senatorial district convention. And so at that point, it's all voted on. But it is very important for you to understand that it all begins at the precinct level. And I can tell you this, since 1976, I've gone to every precinct convention since then, and here's what I've found, that very often, regardless of how large your precinct is, I think the most I've ever seen at a precinct convention is about maybe 15, 18 people at a precinct convention. There are times when I've been at the precinct convention, guess what? My wife and I were the only two there. And as an end result of that, guess what? I was the chair, she was the secretary and vice chair, and then the other thing is that all the planks that we took that were going to be part of the decision-making process at the senatorial district level, every one of those went forward.
Bill, it looks here like the city of Arlington has about 46 different precincts. Am I reading that correctly?
That's it. That's about right.
That's a lot of precincts.
Exactly.
So it's basically your neighborhood. Everything starts in your neighborhood.
Exactly.
Get involved in, talk about local politics. You don't get more local than your own neighborhood.
That's exactly right. And let me tell you, if you would simply get a few of your neighbors that you know to be good conservatives and say, just sit down with them and say, you know what, we can have a real impact on the Republican Party. Because I'll tell you this, you're going to, if you want to have a candidate that wins, they're either going to win as a Republican or a Democrat. The independents are not going to win. The libertarians are not going to win. The only thing that's going to win in the state of Texas is either Republican or Democrat. Now, you may say, well, there's some things I don't like about what the Republican Party is doing. Okay, you know what? All you got to do is get involved. And that's what I encourage people to do is to, first of all, read the Republican Party platform. And the second thing is, see if there's anything in there that you don't like. And if it's something you don't like, work to change it. The second thing is this. If you want it to stay as it is, then guess what? You need to get involved. You need to make sure that you go to your precinct convention, your senatorial convention, and maybe even your state convention to make sure the platform stays a very strong conservative platform. So, because what happens then is that once we get to the senatorial convention, just like I say, 1,400 people there, and then they will actually have a temporary platform committee. That's made permanent when you first get there after some votes, but you can also change the platform committee. Then they have a nominations committee that is temporary until it's ratified by the convention. And again, the platform committee changes the platform for the senatorial district level, and when it's made permanent, that platform in the senatorial district is then sent to the state, where initially they have a temporary platform committee, and then they have a temporary nominating committee. And what it boils down to is every 4 years, in other words, this is done every 2 years. The precinct convention, the senatorial convention, and the state convention, that is held every 2 years. The precinct convention is held the night of the primary. Somewhere around April to May time frame, the senatorial district convention is held, and then somewhere around the end of May, 1st of June time frame, the state convention is held. So that is done every 2 years. They have a national convention every 4 years. But how do you impact each and every one of these? You get in by you being involved. And let me give you a prime example. When I first got involved back in 1976, the Republican Party platform was not pro-life. And as an end result of that, I started showing up with other pro-lifers, and I worked with other pro-life people to make sure that the pro-life planks got into the Republican Party platform. That began at the precinct level, then we moved to the senatorial district level, and eventually we took it to the state level. And guess what? After taking it to the state level for a number of years, we got it at the national level. Let me tell you, as a result of that, there's only one Republican in this entire state that is either a state senator or state representative, or at the state level, there's only one Republican that I know of that doesn't claim to be pro-life. Now, again, with like so many other things in life, there are those that claim to be, and then there are those that are. But you know, the way it all starts is going back to the precinct, having an impact on that, then the senatorial district level, the state convention level, making sure it gets in the platform. And so what I would like you to do is encourage you to, A, get on the Texas State GOP website, pull down the Republican Party platform of Texas. It is about 22 pages long, and it covers everything from, it has a preamble, it has principles, and then the first one is preserving American freedom. The first one under that is limiting the expanse of government power. The next one is reforming the judicial system, restoring the integrity of our elections. You know, for many years, before we were able to pass the bill that had a photo ID, that first of all, we got it into the Republican Party platform. Then we were able to change the state legislature. It was only after we got moved from a state legislature that was controlled by the Democrats to a state legislature that was controlled by the Republicans that we were able to get the photo ID in order to vote. So this is not something that happens overnight, my friends. This nation did not get corrupted overnight, and it will not be changed overnight. We're like on a huge battleship or an aircraft carrier. It doesn't turn on a dime. And it is in result of that, what it takes is people with commitment to these principles to get up and to get involved and to get changes. And one of the things I've seen, the way that you make changes is change it within the Republican Party. Now, one of the other things that we need to do is look at certain areas. Josh, let me ask you this. Do you got any questions about anything that we've discussed so far?
Well, I think you've covered it pretty good. I think coming from the average person's viewpoint out there, I guess that they would say, well, geez, that's going to take a long time. We're a microwave generation. We want it done in 30 seconds or less. and you're talking about, man, now I got to get involved at the precinct level. I've got to get involved with my neighbors, and I don't even know my neighbors next door to me. How the heck am I going to be a leader in my community and affect change at the precinct level? So I don't know really if that's a question or not, but what you said was right on. That we didn't get to this place overnight. This is 100 years plus in the making where we got to.
Well, and here's the let me tell you again. It will take some time, but let me tell you this. Mm-hmm. I have never seen more people engaged. I've been in the Republican Party politics since 1976. I have never seen more people engaged in what I've seen since 2010. So here we go. This, a little over 3 years since then, and we have had a huge impact. The Tea Party has had a huge impact on the Republican Party, mm-hmm. and as the end result of that, they've had a huge impact on America. But so again, it doesn't overnight, but let me tell you this thing. In one election process, we had a huge transformation in what went on in the halls of Congress, because guess what? We changed it from the House being controlled by Nancy Pelosi to a House controlled by John Boehner. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not a big John Boehner fan, but I'll tell you this. I'd rather have somebody there saying no to Obama than somebody who is constantly saying yes. But let me add one other thing, because a lot of people say, boy, that sounds like a lot of work. And that's the thing. It really isn't. If you go to your precinct convention, you know what? You'll probably be there somewhere maybe an hour or two. Okay, so that's in March. You'll go for an hour or two. Then when you go to the senatorial level, okay, you'll be there all day on one Saturday. It's pretty well done. One Saturday. You get there about 8:30, starts at 9. Most of the time it's over with by 5, 6, 7. I think the latest I've ever seen it's gone to about 11 o'clock at night. Okay, now remember this. I've been going since 1976. Then you get to the state convention. And the state convention starts it will start on a Thursday afternoon. You go all day Friday, all day Saturday, and it's over Saturday night. So that means we were there 2 hours at the most on a precinct convention. Then we were there for 1 day on a senatorial district level. And then when it got to the Senate, to the state, we were there about 2.5. Now, you know what that means, friends? That you spent about a total of about 5 days for 2 years having a positive impact on America.
And real impact.
Exactly. And
more influence than almost anybody else in the country.
That's exactly right. Because again, when I would go to the precinct convention, and maybe there'd be 1,000, 1,500 people in our precinct, and very often my wife and I were the only ones there. And there are a number of times I've been where maybe there would be 5 or 6. There's only been a few that it was over 10. So all you got to do is get a few people to show up at your precinct convention with you, and you can start having a huge impact. So that's what I encourage you to do. The other thing is, as you get involved and you go to the senatorial district level, you start seeing the way the process works. And let me tell you, you will be able to tell who the conservative leaders are. They'll be there. They'll be there fighting to make sure that conservative principles stay in the Republican Party platform. And you'll certainly be able to tell once you get to the state convention. And when you get to each one of these, the senatorial convention, you'll hear some great campaign speeches and that kind of thing. Then when you get to the state convention, you'll hear some great community. I guarantee you, I wouldn't be surprised if Ted Cruz isn't at our state convention, giving the rallying cry. And we'll have other people there as well who will be talking about moving conservative principles forward. And let me tell you something, friends, that's exactly what we've got to do if we want to take back Texas, keep Texas strong, and make sure that we're able to continue to have a positive impact on this nation. Because the only way we're going to do it is those of you who are listening to my voice get involved. It doesn't take many to have a huge impact, but it does take enough of us to get down there to move these principles forward. Josh, when I talk to the Tea Party groups, when I talk to anybody that's involved in the Tea Party, when you would say, well, okay, what do they stand for? Well, by and large, I've never seen a Tea Party person say, well, I'm for big government. Yeah. No, we're all singing out of the same songbook. We all believe in limited government because we know that a small government is going to cost us a whole lot less as far as money is concerned than a big government. And that means it's going to be lower in taxes. But the other thing is this. We also know that a big government, the bigger it is, the more powerful it becomes, the less freedom that you and I have. And so if you want to preserve your freedom, if you want to preserve the prosperity of a Texas, then guess what? And let me tell you, we can do more than what we're doing right now. We can do better than what we're doing right now if we all simply get engaged, because there are things that we can change right now to implement principles that are in this platform if we will simply all get engaged. But first of all, we need to learn the way the process works so that we can get engaged and get down there and do something to move these conservative principles forward.
Yeah, Bill, you mentioned something earlier, and it just really took me by surprise that in 1976, the Republican Party, the platform of the Republican Party was not pro-life. Now, I was born in 1980, and I just assumed that the platform of the Republican Party had always been pro-life.
Exactly.
And even though we haven't won that war yet, without that being part of the platform, we're not even fighting these battles.
That's exactly right.
My question I would have for you is, it seems like many in the Republican Party, like John Boehner, who is so ready and eager and willing to grant amnesty under immigration, the name immigration reform. How is it that we can get involved here at the precinct level and beyond, and really strengthen the Republican platform on correct immigration? Because I don't know if you're aware of this. I'm sure you probably are. The New York Times recently reported that the United States of America allows more legal immigrants every year than every other nation in the world combined.
Wow, yeah.
192, 193 nations, depending on what year it is. It kind of fluctuates up and down a little bit. But let's just take 192 nations. That means that one nation, our nation, the United States of America, allows more legal immigrants than 191 other nations in the world combined. How is it on the precinct level that we can really build that platform that we don't want illegal immigration? 25 Americans killed every year by illegal immigrants.
No, I think that's probably closer to every day.
Oh, that's right. Every day.
Exactly.
I'm sorry.
About every day.
And if that weren't bad enough, 8 American children are sodomized, raped, or molested by illegal immigrants in our country every single day. If we're pro-life, if this is the anti-slavery party, then shouldn't it also be the Save Our Children and Save Our Life party in this generation?
Exactly. In fact, I'm glad you brought this up, because here's the thing. The main thing we've got to do is this. We got to change the argument, because all we hear from the other side is, well, okay, what are we going to do with all these poor illegal aliens that are here? And excuse me, friends, I think we're asking the wrong question. I think what we got to ask is this: how does it impact U.S. citizens to have them here? You just brought up a few things. The fact about, in fact, I remember I had some legislation. I think it was in 2007 time frame, right around there. And what the main thing we saw was that at the time there had been more people killed every year from illegal aliens than were killed in the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. And so what it boils down to is this. We got to ask, we need to stop asking, okay, what about them? What we need to do is what about us? Here's the other thing I think we need to ask, because it's just like if you watched the debate last night with the lieutenant governors, the Republican candidates for lieutenant governor. The one thing that nobody asks when it deals to illegal immigration is this: why should we do one thing before we secure our borders? In other words, the first and foremost thing, before we consider what we're going to do with those people who are coming here legally, what we're going to do with the people who are already here illegally, and that kind of thing, the first thing we need to look at is this: what do we do with, first of all, as for how does it affect Americans? The second thing is this: why should we do one thing before we secure our borders? Because here's the thing: if they can come across for a job, they can come across to kill us. And make no mistake about it, today, when you can carry a highly lethal weapon that would kill 100,000 people easily, all you got to do is carry a suitcase-sized bomb and to get it here. So the fact of the matter is that if they can come here for a job, they can come here to kill us. And I think what we need to look at and ask one question: why should we do one thing before we secure our borders? Here's the other thing, is that whether the border is secure or not, like for instance, the head of Homeland Security came down and said, well, the Texas borders are secure. Well, I don't know where she was, but I can tell you this: the Texas borders are not secure. You can talk to landowners who are down on the border, and they will tell you the Texas borders are not secure. And then what we need to look at, it needs to be, who's going to certify it? I think it needs to be certified by the Texas state legislature, because you know what? That way, not one person can be swayed, but you require the legislature to look at it based on identifiable evidence to tell whether our borders are secure. And then, once the borders are secure, we'll be glad to talk about all these other issues. But let me tell you, friends, we shouldn't do one thing before we make sure our borders are secure. And see, that's the kind of thing we need to take forward and put in the Republican Party platform, that we expect our representatives to not do one thing as far as changing the rules as far as what we're going to do with those people who are here illegally until, first and foremost, our borders are secure. Mm-hmm. Second thing is this: we need to ask, how is it going to affect whatever we do, whatever policy we decide to adopt, how is it going to affect those people who are citizens of the United States? So I think if we start moving that proposition forward, we can be successful in making sure that our elected leaders listen to us.
Yeah, well, that's a great point. And as a citizen, I appreciate hearing your representative, because this is a question that I've had for a long time now. Why is it that our elected representatives tend to be representing other countries' populations more than they're representing their own populations?
Well, I think a lot of it is because their voices are the ones that are heard, because that's repeated by the media and stuff like that. Whereas on the other hand, the way to have our voices heard is through getting one consistent message and carrying it forward. And we take it and we put it at the senatorial level and then the state level and put it in the platform. That's the way our voices can be heard. It is a united voice.
Yeah, and that's what's going to keep our community strong, keep Texas strong. And whenever Texas is strong, then we're going to be able to lead the way for the rest of the country. And that's how we're going to take Texas back and take America back.
Exactly.
Bill, we're here at the end of our show. I just want to invite each of our listeners, join us here each week, Tuesday afternoons, for the Zedler Report with State Representative Bill Zedler. You're going to get the inside scoop from a real-life politician, exactly what's going on in Austin and Washington. Any last words for our audience today, Bill?
Josh, it's great being here with you today. I look forward to talking with our audience every Tuesday afternoon. God bless you. Listen, America is worth fighting for.